Hi, folks. Bob Mannery here. You're listening to A2D Radio, real sports talk radio for the fans, by the fans, no agenda. These guys are the best in the business. Hashtag it. No notes.
Welcome in, everybody. This is Birds of a Feather, only on A2D Radio. Every show we are brought to you by our doc, Make 'em Yours, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, Burlington, Cherry Hill locations. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Jam-packed show for you. Tom Arnaud, Michael Chromiak, Chuck Moranin, the host of Inside the Birds, co-founder of Inside the Birds with Adam Kaplan, and longtime, forever Eagles beat reporter Geoff Mosher joins us tonight. Jeff, we can't thank you enough for taking the time out in what's been a crazy 4 weeks of Eagles football. So we thank you for jumping on with us and giving us a couple minutes tonight to go through it all. So can't thank you enough.
Thank you for introducing me as a longtime guy. Now everybody knows I'm old.
I go back with you, so you're all right. You're all right.
All right, cool.
We go back that long. We got a ton to talk about. We'll do it around the league. Eagles Saints preview, quarterback controversy, in air quotes. Obviously, we have our interview with Jeff that we'll get to in a second, and our poll question brought to you by Ambuck Services, 20% off for all your gutter guards, gutter installations. Ambuck Services got you covered. Let our boy Michael Ambrose know A2D saying you 20% off. Our poll question: Carson Wentz will never be successful with this regime. Agree or disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. That's where we're live. Everywhere you get your podcast, we're there as well. Like, subscribe, follow, download. Talk to us tonight. Talk to Jeff tonight. We'll try to get to your comments. I know us three got questions for you, so we'll get right into it. Chucks, Chrome, let you boys start. It is your show, so enjoy it, everybody.
Jeff, again, thanks for joining us, brother. We appreciate you, man. And it's funny because we talked about having you on at some point this year. Who knew that it was going to be such a crazy week? It's such a good time to have you on. First and foremost, we all know the situation. We finally seen the quarterback change. So my first question, and maybe it's a little bit of a two-parter, is in your opinion, what led to Doug making this decision to finally pull the string and start Jalen at quarterback now when, a lot of people asked for it a couple of weeks ago? That's question one. And to follow up with that, is Jalen a very viable possibility to be the starting quarterback beyond this year? Or is this more of a let Carson kind of sit and get his head together and, this is his job next year to lose?
So to answer your first question, I thought that the quarterback switch might have happened against the Seahawks. And if you go back to that game, they were losing early, and then they scored the touchdown right before halftime, and that cuts the lead to 14-7. Actually, 6. It should have been 7, but the kicker can't make a PAT anymore. So it was 14-6. And then they come out with the ball in the third quarter, and they drive down the field. And I don't know if you guys remember it, but it might be – and this is really hard to say, but this might be the most embarrassing point of their year, where they were on a 3rd and 8, and they tried to throw a screen to the left side of the field. And 10 of the 11 players on offense knew that it was a screen on the 11th on that side of the field. But apparently Boston Scott or someone didn't tell Boston Scott. I don't know, but he wasn't there to catch the screen. And so Carson got sacked, and they settled for a field goal. And that was kind of it. That was, I thought, a major turning point as far as that game, but they were never really getting blown out, right? And they were moving the ball. So you didn't see the quarterback switch there. But then against the Packers, obviously, it was getting out of hand there, and Doug, decided to go to Jalen Hurts, and I feel like he did this because, and anybody can see it, right? I mean, for week after week after week after week, no matter what he tried to do, no matter what Carson did, nothing was changing. It's kind of like they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. And clearly, Carson is broken. And there are a lot of plays that, and I'm not absolving Doug or Howie or anybody, but there are a lot of plays on the field that Carson would typically make that he just wasn't making, meaning he wasn't even throwing to open receivers. And when you get to that point, you need to have a guy take a step back for a while, and he needs to be repaired and rebuilt. And so that's why they went with Jalen Hurts. Now, will Jalen Hurts have a chance to be the quarterback next year? I don't know. I mean, I think we're far away from even knowing who's coaching the team. Is it Doug Peterson? Will he get a chance to kind of fix what he's also broken? Will the GM be the same? Will there be new offensive coaches? You guys know this. I mean, we've seen it all. When the Eagles win, Sean Spellman, what's going on? When the Eagles win, like last year and the year before, they still fire coaches. So when they bottom out like this, there's going to be major changes. And then we'll have to see. And this is, to me, the biggest question of the offseason is who's going to be responsible for fixing Carson Wentz. Is it going to be Doug and new coaches, or is it going to be a totally new staff and regime? But for a lot of reasons, financially, I believe that they're going to give Carson every single chance to be the starter. Now, maybe it's a competition if Jalen Hurts happens to play well down the stretch here, but it's going to be hard to move that contract, and it's going to be hard for them from a pride and an ego standpoint to just say goodbye to Carson Wentz, knowing that they're the ones that kind of broke him too, and then maybe watch him go get repaired somewhere else. So I do think Carson will be given every bit the opportunity to be the starting quarterback next year.
Hey, Jeff, it's Chuck. So I want you to expand on something that you and Kaplan reported a couple weeks ago during your pregame show. You guys talked about, and you broke the news that Laurie actually gave the directive to Peterson to go ahead and start Hertz whenever he felt like it. But then also the fact that Laurie really liked Hertz in the draft, and he maybe indirectly influenced that pick by Roseman. So if you can just openly discuss, if you want to expand on that, and what are the repercussions of that? Because we know that the Eagles invested so much in Wentz, arguably more than any organization in a single player in the whole league. So if they did that, but Laurie really went out of his way to want Hertz, what does that mean for either quarterback, going forward?
That's a multi-layered question right there. I'll start with Jeffrey Lurie, and it's out there. We've reported it. Other people too. He does have more of a hand in what's going on day to day and personnel wise than I think he's had in the past, and a lot of that is due to his fondness and affinity for analytics, which he's very open about. Howie Roseman is big on it too. It's my sense, just, and based on what I hear, that they really incorporate that into the draft a lot. And when you talk to people around the league, it's, people are proponent of analytics, but there's a line where you draw as far as in-game strategy and drafting and where you're supposed to use analytics. So I think that that's becoming, an issue for the team. And I mean, I think that they came out and said it themselves. And this is where I would say I disagree with them, because I'm not the type of person that thinks that when you make a mistake once that you should correct it by making another mistake. And Jeffrey and Howie have been very much on the record about the 2012 draft, on how they really thought they were going to get Russell Wilson there in the third round. All their intelligence, or intel, I should say, kind of led them to think that nobody was going to take him at that spot. And then bam, the Seahawks do. And, the Eagles have to settle for some guy named Nick Foles, and all he does is win them a Super Bowl. But the point is, they really do want Russell Wilson, and you would take Russell Wilson over Nick 100 times out of 100. We all know that. Yes. So I would say that they use that example in saying why they went to get Jalen Hurts, but I don't think that they meant to say that they view Jalen Hurts as their Russell Wilson. I just think that what they were trying to say is, when you really want a guy, for whatever core philosophy you're building that around, you get him. I would take a step back and say, well, if you really wanted him because you value the backup quarterback now more than any team in the league, I think that's where we get into a little bit of a discussion on what are we doing here? Because he's still, at the end of the day, taking them for their word. They said they felt he was a backup quarterback, and then somebody who had the chance to, do other things too, like the Taysom Hill that you see with New Orleans. But in general, they said, we see him as a backup quarterback. We love Carson. We just signed him to a long-term deal. I know not everybody believes that. I do believe that. I don't think they drafted Jalen Hurts with anything about Carson being not good anymore or just always being hurt in the back of their mind. So that's what they did. As Kaplan and I have reported quite a lot. I mean, every team we've spoken to who's put a grade on Jalen Hurts had him as kind of a round 3, late 3, early 4 guy. He's picked high in the second round. So I know some people will feel like him starting now in these next 3 games kind of validates the pick. And I say that's kind of a premature, thought process, because if he goes out there and doesn't play very well, no one's going to be saying that was such a great decision. And that won't even be fair to Jalen Hurts, by the way. That's just what people are going to say. But so to get to your point, I do think that, the owner is getting more involved. And I'll say this, like, I don't normally think that that's a really good idea. But I will also say that if the owner didn't get involved with some of the offseason coaching changes, Doug was not going to do it. And some of the offseason coaching changes, I think, needed to happen. Certainly the wide receivers coach change, I felt had to happen from Carson Walsh to now Aaron Moorhead. So I guess in a sense that you go back to making a mistake to correct a mistake. I don't know what it is, but to me, it's just kind of a sign where not everybody's pulling in the same direction. That can be problematic too.
Oh, absolutely. The Sixers here, everybody says they sit at the same table. Doc came in and said, we're going to make all the moves together, and that's what good organizations do. And it seemed like the Eagles are in disconnect. And speaking of drafts and Howie Roseman, somebody I've been critical of, and I know a lot of people have, not just me, is Howie Roseman. And just draft day Howie Roseman. Not so much. We all know how he's great with the cap. Well, has been, and is really a good guy who makes some under-the-radar trades and is good in free agency. He has a good track record. But it feels like he's failing at more things than he's being successful with right now. What are the chances, 10 being Howie Roseman's definitely back and 1 being he's not back? I know the relationship he has with Jeffrey Laurie, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm always like hesitant to make these kind of predictions because crazy things happen. So I'll just say that without any knowledge, just a gut reaction based on your question, I would think it's more likely than not that he's back. So I'd probably put it in the 7 or 8 range. Although, ask me a week from now and maybe something will be different because Jeffrey really relies on him. Now, is he back in the same capacity? That really is probably the even more direct question because we've seen him stay with the organization but have a different role in the past when they brought in Chip Kelly, right? So what does Jeffrey do with Howie Roseman? Does he simply clean house but keep Howie? I suppose that's possible. I really don't know. I would love to be inside Jeffrey Lurie's mind right now because I know this. He's not happy. He's made that known to his team, his coaches. And, I don't think there's going to be an easy fix. So I can't imagine he's going to be any happier over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And we'll have to see what results. But he does tend to lean on Howie for a lot of like knowledge and understanding of the league and who's out there and, coaches and executives and scouts. So I have a hard time thinking that Howie is just going to be completely rid from the organization. But whenever I say that, I do say, you know what? People said that about Joe Banner, a long time ago. They said that they were boyhood friends, best friends, and there would never be a time where they weren't running the organization together. And Joe Banner's been gone for several years now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a question everybody wants to know now, and I think I feel the same way you do. We're at 7 or 8 because of the relationship. If you just had to ask me like how I feel, I would feel that same way, right around that range because they're close and they've had success together and recent success. And I think it's hard for, as you've seen the guys we've signed back at older ages, because it's hard to part ties when you finally win a Super Bowl. It's just hard to do. I'm glad I'm in that spot as a fan, but I wouldn't want to be in that spot as an owner and a GM and everybody else. So thanks for answering that one.
You got it. And yeah, I mean, none of these decisions are going to be made easily. And Jeffrey is patient. He normally will, take his time to decide on what he's going to do.
Yeah. Looking at the situation of the organization, knowing that we haven't drafted well, we haven't really put a core of young guys behind Carson Wentz and really even necessarily on the defensive end. When we talked on this show a couple of weeks ago about how many guys 25 and under on this roster are absolutely must keep or untouchables. We struggled to find more than 2 outside of Dallas Goedert and maybe Miles. So my question here would be, knowing this situation, there's a couple of names out there. Joe Brady, Bieniemy are 2 names out there, hot coaching candidates. Is it fair to say that Philadelphia, and there's going to be a lot of job openings this year, that maybe sticking with Doug might be the best option. I don't want to say out of necessity because Doug is a good head coach, but the fact that if you can't go and get one of these top 1 or 2 guys or 3 guys, is it worth making that change right now or giving him an extra leash? Because my concern is with the cap situation, without the young core of guys to look at coming up, that this may not be the desirable destination for a head coach as it has been in years past. So do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I do. Because there's a couple of things in there. I've always found that there are times where organizations, and this in the case of the Eagles here, have a reputation that is now tenuous, where people look at it and they say, I don't know what I'm getting into. I'm not sure I want to be there. But usually in those cases, the organization doesn't have that kind of a self-awareness. The organization thinks, hey, we're this organization. Of course you're going to come want to work for us, and there'll be all the money in the world for you to do it. But that's not always the case. We have seen teams that just missed out on coaches or executives because they were a bad situation. The Eagles are not, I wouldn't say toxic, but I do think, go back to when Chip Kelly was given all the power and it was taken away from Howie. And then they were looking for kind of a personnel guy for Chip. And they wound up promoting Ed Manowitz at that time, who was already in the organization. And I know they went on an extensive search and interviewed a lot of executives, but a lot of executives were not interested in that job because they were nervous about the future. And boy, were they right, since Chip only lasted 1 year, but they knew Howie was still in the building. So they didn't know, exactly what they were getting into. And so you look at the team now, if they do, I don't know that I think Jeffrey's first decision is Doug the right guy for the franchise or not? And if he feels that Doug is, he keeps him. If he feels that he's not, then he has to get rid of him. Doesn't really matter who the next guys are out there, because Jeffrey kind of prides himself on being able to find that guy that nobody's talking about anyway, right? Like Andy and even like Doug, who most people didn't like when they hired him. So I don't know that he's going to keep like the landscape in mind, maybe in the back of his mind, but I think at first it'll always come down to, does he believe Doug can do it? If he believes Doug can do it, then I think his next question is, who do I need to bring in? Who do we as a team, that's how he should look at it, need to bring in that will work with Doug on fixing Carson Wentz? Because they did this last offseason. They brought a couple of coaches in that Doug really does not have a relationship other than Marty Morningweg a little bit, right? And it doesn't seem like we're seeing the fruits of all these guys and what they have to offer in the offense. If anything, we're not seeing any of it. So I think they, as a team, have to decide, what the best situation is to fixing Carson and who can help them do that.
You think they believe in Doug? Do you think Jeffrey does?
I think right now Jeffrey is very undecided about that. And that's just what I'm thinking. I mean, I have no idea. I haven't talked to him. Clearly he's mad. But I think that at the end of the season, he's going to take a really long time and go back on everything and see, is this all on Doug, or were there other issues that contribute, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the assistant coaches that he brought in, the ideas guys, maybe they're the issue. And then he's going to kind of look at it all in the big picture and make that decision.
It's fair. That's a Jeffrey move. And I would want that. You know what I mean? I would want to go back and dot his I's and cross his T's on everything when you're making a big time decision like this. But a guy who I believe is a great leader of men, not so much X and O, but Mike Tomlin's had a really great career being a great leader of men. And I just wish, we see Sean McVay they're gonna play in a little bit here that fired didn't have an offensive coordinator last year, and they struggled because it's hard to do it all at this level, and especially in a year like this. So I think they did it. I think he did himself a disservice and this organization disservice by, I never thought we'd be begging for Mike Groback. Where's Mike at? Can he come back and just maybe call half? Because we can't score, so it's fun. Go ahead,
it
Chuck.
is hard to believe. People forget that last year's offense finished third in the NFL in red zone efficiency and fourth in third down efficiency. So situationally, they were a really good offense last year. They were 12th in scoring, and obviously they had a drop off, but they weren't nearly as dysfunctional as they are now.
No, not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Probably got time for one more. Which one of you guys want to jump in and get it?
Go ahead, Chucks. You got another one?
Okay. Well, Well, Jeff, the other thing I wanted to ask you is because you mentioned it when you were answering my other question too. Laurie was involved in the firing of Carson Walsh, the wide receivers coach, and then he brought in Aaron Moorhead. And Moorhead was supposed to be someone that we looked at as he was going to be a great coach. A lot of people were high on him. But does the lack of development we're seeing from the wide receivers, in particular, with Reagor and his struggles, I mean, his route running looks atrocious right now when I watch all 22. Like, does that speak more so to Moorhead? And his lack of ability to develop Reagor and Fulgham and get them out of this funk that they're having? Or do you think it's more isolated to just how the wide receivers are playing themselves?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of things in there, Chucks. I mean, they didn't have, none of these coaches had the true offseason that you would expect. I mean, with Reagor, he had, a couple of weeks of training camp. He got hurt, then he had got hurt again during the regular season. I think his route running's inconsistent. I don't know if it's as I would say atrocious, but I don't know that there's not been development. I feel like Fulgham was a guy who developed, but now you've seen regression because of the entire offense regressing, and for some reason they're deciding to play Alshon Jeffrey, which is a decision that's way even over Aaron Moorhead's head. Mm-hmm. I believe that they're actually happy with what Moorhead's brought to the team. It may not be visible to the eye, but he is working with a lot of young players out there who are either unknowns like Fulgham 6 weeks ago, or a guy like Reagor who's missed a lot of time. But you got to give him a little bit more time and an actual offseason to work with these guys. And I'd like to see if the quarterback change brings out a little bit more in them. People love to do the Jefferson Reagor thing right now. And I tell you, you could put like Jerry Rice in this offense in his prime. And I'm not quite sure he's catching a whole lot of passes because the offense was just complete mess. So I'm not going to blame the wide receivers a lot for what's going on. I made a point of this in the last podcast. I don't know why Doug does this, and this might result in him being unemployed, but it seems like every single play he's dialing up has 3 or 4 verticals to it. And you can't protect a quarterback for more than 2.5 seconds. And the defense, like the Packers, played a lot of soft off coverage, and there's so much there underneath. But these guys have to run 20, 25 yards down the field. By that point, the quarterback's either on the run or dead, right? So I'm very confused as to why Doug hasn't recognized this and added more of the slants and quick hitters and smoke screens and tunnels and things like that. Maybe we'll see that with Jalen Hurts. I doubt, I don't know if you're going to see a whole major change, but maybe just Jalen sees the field a little bit better and just moves the ball, and that changes the dynamic of the offense. But I think we got to be patient with the wide receivers and Aaron Moorhead.
Fair.
Great points, yeah.
Great point. Not every wide receiver comes in year one is impactful. I mean, just because other guys have, it doesn't mean that's a necessity for you to be a good player or an all-pro in this league. It's just not.
Yeah.
One way or the other. So at least we're seeing flashes, and that's a lot more than we've seen from JJ. So at this point, we'll take what we can get. We're not going to be
definitely.
Not going to be picky. But Jeff, we know you got to run, and we appreciate you giving us the time. And everybody that doesn't know you, I mean, most people do, but if they don't, and you're just started following Eagles football, you can find Geoff Mosher on Inside the Birds, and obviously, like we talked about before, Eagles beat reporter. So covers it all, does a hell of a job. We can't thank you enough for taking the time and coming back on with us here.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it. And to all the people who are just shouting me out there on your who are watching, I appreciate it, and I hope everybody's doing great.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care, brother.
See you on Twitter. That was a great job. Great insight, like what we thought. You know what I mean? You got great insight, and got every question out to him that you could get out to him to figure out where he stands on things. And I think where we all do, a lot of unknowns, and I think when you look at this football team, there's so many unknowns. How are we going to be back? He gave like a 7 or 8, and I wouldn't expect him to know one way or the other, but I just wanted that gut feeling, like what's your gut tell you? And, I know mine tells me 7 or 8, maybe even 10, because I know Jeffrey and Howie's relationship. So, that might be status quo, but like you said, maybe in a different role, hopefully not as much in draft control like he's had. And, how this year is sort of done us a disservice in a way too, with no offensive coordinator, new guys in the door. If you had a crystal ball and knew what 2020 was going to bring, you would have kept all of the assistants. You would have said, oh, run it back with one more because you knew you weren't going to have an off season. You know what I mean? Nobody knew that was coming, that you weren't going to have your typical off season. So you probably would have stayed status quo with that. So it's a lot of good questions. So
yeah, I think I'm with him, I haven't wavered from this. I just have a feeling that Howie's going to be on this football team. He's going to be, and that's a fair point that he said. What role is he going to be in? Maybe that's the question. Mm-hmm. I think he's still going to be the general manager making the picks on draft day, which is unfortunate. But I thought that was pretty telling. The other thing, great question with the wide receiving core and the job that Moorhead's done. I think that's fair, and that's thinking outside of just being a fan and watching on television and reacting to the results on the field. You have to consider a lot of different factors. We talk about Fulgham and you call him T-shirt guy, and that's fair. But at the same time, maybe we don't really know what we have with him because his drop off was drastic. However, the entire offense's drop off around that time does coincide, and I don't think that's by accident.
Well, you brought somebody new in. He took snaps away, and then when he did come in, he's dropped balls. So he started becoming inconsistent. The only thing I would say out of all that I don't agree with is, I think Jerry finds a way to catch balls here. I think some special wide receivers get open here. I don't agree with all the play calling. I agree with that. There is too many verticals. There's too many, go for the kill shot, and the kill shot hasn't been there.
They're not making adjustments. There's no in-game adjustments, and that's what blows my mind. He's talking about, he's right. If they're playing 10, 15, 20 yards off of the wide receivers, by the time they get to a point where they can move the football enough to get to the sticks, the defense is already at home on Carson, putting him on the turf.
Before you read off this poll, I saw the highlights come back of, his best highlights from 2017, I think. And everything was like outside the pocket. You know what I mean? Nothing was inside the pocket. Everything was extending plays, making plays on the throws on the run. Everything was like that. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't, stationary and missionary in the pocket all the time. It was, I think one throw was. Everything else had to be shifted, moving, right? So it's like, before you answer that poll, seeing that and then how little of that he's done now, that's what worries me with the regime. Because, who's putting that in his head? And I think Jalen's too young to have that in his head right now, which is why he'll probably make some plays on Sunday, even though, this defense coming in is awesome. But the poll was Carson Wentz will never be successful with this Eagles regime. And that's the question. Not will never be successful. He'll never be successful with this regime. And that's, everybody that's here, and the coaching staff, the front office, everybody outside of Jeffrey Laurie, who he might not be successful under him either. His influence with the draft, you know what I mean? I'll go first and let you boys just rock it out.
Before you do that, I do want to say this. I did think that his point in regards to the draft pick of Hertz and everybody immediately assuming that he's drafted as a likely possible replacement of Carson. They don't believe Carson. I thought his point about that was very valid. I think they did fall in love with the idea, especially to see the success of Taysom Hill in New Orleans and the fact that you missed the opportunity for Russell Wilson a couple of years ago. I think that whole snowball effect did affect that idea. But I do believe that he was drafted to be a backup quarterback. I don't believe he was drafted to create a quarterback controversy. However, it is very foolish of them in this city to not understand that by doing that, you are going to create the situation that you're in now. And that I don't think they took into account in doing
the third round. In
the
third round, it's different.
Agreed.
Yeah, the way it's a lack of awareness for where you're at. I mean, you have to it's like, did they not realize that it wasn't too long ago that the city was calling for Foles to stay and Wentz to be traded? All right, like it wasn't that long ago. Then even before that, how long ago was it that people were calling for other backups to be put in place? I was a lot younger. I didn't know half of what I knew about football now, but even I was part of the crowd that wanted Jeff Garcia to stay over Donovan McNabb. It was as foolish as it was. That was me at the time. I mean, this is a city that loves the backup quarterback, and to think it's okay with all the talent left still on the table in the second round to say, well, we really want this backup quarterback. We're going to take him in the second because we know we can get him there instead of risking him being taken in the third or fourth. That's not like I get what they're trying to do, but it's bad process to take a backup quarterback. And I think we suspected so. Like all of us during the live draft reaction show we had on A2D months ago, we all said, like, why are you drafting a backup quarterback in the second round? Like, it doesn't make sense. And I think it was refreshing because when I heard them, Kaplan and Mosher break that news, I'm like, what is Laurie doing? So Laurie wanted freaking Hertz, on this team. Like, does he want him to be the future? But I'm glad he cleared it up and saying no. They wanted him as the backup. It's just that they overvalued where they took a backup. They didn't have the wherewithal to say, like, hey, maybe the second round isn't a good spot to take him. So it's good that he cleared that up because it's like, all right, so maybe if that's their mindset, maybe they still do have faith in Carson, and it's not just smoke screens and everything like that.
But
I want to give a quick shout. I want to give a quick shout out to Kanila Kahunai. I hope I said your name right. I always take a shot at from Hawaii chiming in. By the way, guys, love that.
Yeah, we
Welcome to the show.
That's awesome.
You jumping in, talking some Eagles with us. I mean, Doug's right. I mean, dude's human. There's a statue of your backup winning Super Bowl, and a Heisman caliber QB is taken in the second round. Only head scratchers giving him $128 million beforehand, and he's right. And I know Doug's been a big, non-believer of Carson, and that's fine. Like, everybody can have their opinions on him, and I've been Team Carson camp, but all of them things are factual when you talk about playing professional sports. Now, are they excuses? Absolutely freaking not. But the sport is mental. It is mental. But we'll see where this whole organization goes from here. But I'm curious on obviously getting your guys' thoughts and the family's thoughts on our poll, and that is Carson Wentz will never be successful with this Eagles regime. Agree or disagree? Chime in, fam. Let us know. I'm going to say disagree, and I'll tell you why. Because First off, I don't know who's going to be back. I think we've had that conversation already with Jeff. So, I don't know who's going to be back. But let's just assume that Doug's back, right? I'm going to believe there's enough wherewithal within that organization and inside them doors, right, to know, hey, let's go get some offensive guy minds in here, right? Let's not try to continue to throw a head against the wall, right? I mean, Jeff talked about insanity, definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. Well, coming back without a legit offensive coordinator would be doing the same thing over and over again. I would hope Jeffrey Laurie would get involved in that, in hiring a smart-minded young offensive coordinator from somewhere, right? That's just as good as hiring a head coach in a way, right? Great coordinators help you win. All right? I don't care what anybody says. Great coordinators help head coaches win. Tomlin's had good ones. You need good ones around you. So I think that, if that being said, that's why I'll disagree. Because I think Doug can fix him, guys, when he doesn't have everything on his damn plate. Because I think with everything on his plate, he's hurt him. And he's hurt him from not rolling him out enough, not getting him on the run, not running the ball enough. All these things that we know this year of what come into play to hurt Carson Wentz. But make no bones about it and no mistake about it. Carson Wentz has hurt himself as well. He's not played good enough. You can't lead the league in the statistical categories he does negatively and if anybody be able to make excuses for you anymore. There's people open. There's receivers open. So your decision-making has been flawed because your mental side has been kicked in because for a couple reasons. You've been beaten and battered all year, right? So that plays into your trust. Right? You've had moving things all around you. Plays into your trust. Your decision-making has become shit. The pressure has become a lot for you to handle. And when that happens, the first thing you do is you come back and sit down and relax. And if that doesn't fix him, nothing will. But they got to fix his quarterback because he's owed way too much money, and we ain't playing with dudes from Wegmans that eat like organic stuff. Like we're not signing them dudes. Like, you know what I mean? We're not signing guys who work at your local grocery store. There's not enough money to be able to move him next year. So we got to hope somebody can get him right. So I'll disagree because I'm going to put trust into Jeffrey Laurie for this fact is if he keeps Doug, he's going to make a point to hire his own offensive guy. And I think we can all believe that. So I'll disagree with that because I think the right people in here that can focus just on one thing. I want Doug focusing on the roster. I don't want him focusing on calling plays, right? I want him to be the motivator and to get guys ready to play. So that's where I'll disagree, guys. So what do you say?
Well, see, I like the wording of the question because, it's been the typical, is Carson Wentz going to succeed in Philadelphia, yada, yada. I like the wording of it. I'm going to agree.
Matt, you can go back and listen on every platform. You can go back and listen after the show. It'll be right up, and every podcast forum, it's up the next day. So, but, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you can go back and listen, brother, if you missed the first 20 minutes with Geoff Mosher and anybody just joining us if you missed it. Sorry, Cromer.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, great time. Great spot to check it out, too. But anyway, I'm going to agree to the poll because if I'm looking at the regime, when I look at the regime, there's three specific people in that regime. It's Jeffrey Laurie, it's Howie Roseman, and it's Doug Peterson. At this point, I believe he could still succeed in this city. I believe he could still be that franchise quarterback. I don't believe in these guys because key one, right? What has been a major issue? Howie Roseman putting proper weapons around him, drafting properly so that you can build the team in a cap-friendly environment around a franchise quarterback who's now making $100 million. I don't believe that Howie can do it. He hasn't shown me draft day that he can do what needs to get done to build a young core. And they're never going to turn the corner until they can do that.
Never.
And number two, with Doug, A, I don't know if he's going to be here. And B, I don't know that I believe that Doug is able to make those adjustments. I would hope that they're going to put a coordinator, and not just a Press Taylor or Deuce Staley, somebody outside of the organization, somebody established, someone who can fit into that role and have a voice at the table. I'm not confident that I think Doug has an ego, and I'm not confident that he's going to be able to do that. I'm not confident that Howie Roseman is going to bring the right guy in at this point. I just don't have confidence in this regime. I told you guys before, my preference would be, if I have to keep all or none, and take Carson out in terms of Doug and Howie, I'm going with none 10 times out of 10 at this point. As much as I love Doug, thanks for the Super Bowl. If your exit signals also the exit of Howie Roseman and we're starting clean with the quarterback and with the guys on this team, I'm in 10 times out of 10. So I'm going to agree to the poll. I don't have confidence that the head coach or the general manager will be able to fix this in a way that will be suitable to Carson. And the other thing too, guys, when you look back at when Nick Foles came into the offense, Doug and the coaching staff went back and they looked at film with Nick Foles, what was successful under Chip Kelly's regime and other things that were suitable to him. However, in year 5 now, we have yet to see them make those similar adjustments to the offense to fit Carson Wentz's skill set. And it's been at its absolute peak worst this year. That we're still, it's that we talk about it. Jeff said it earlier. We've said it 100 times on here. The definition of insanity, we lost that. He'll be back. The definition of insanity is continuing to do the same things over and over and expect a different result. There's no in-game adjustments. There's no adjustment to the offense or the schemes. It's as vanilla or worse than when Mike Groh was here. And I've lost confidence in the head coach, and I've lost confidence in the general manager. I always will believe in my heart of hearts, even if people want to speculate that he's lost his way a little bit in Jeffrey Laurie, which we've seen that floated out there. In my heart of hearts, I still believe that Jeffrey Laurie wants to win and will always make a decision based on winning. So to me, it comes down to, for the regime to succeed, you have to keep 2 out of 3. I need 2. I feel like now I need 2 gone out of that 3 for Carson to be able to succeed, and I don't see it happen.
Yeah, I'm going to agree too, Chrome. I'll say this. I hope I'm wrong on it. I'm sure you feel the same way. Like I hope that if that's the case, that Howie and Doug are back in some type of capacity for next season, that they can turn Wentz around. Because all the likelihood, I mean, it's a 99% chance that he's here anyway for next season. So I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that they can turn him around and he can be successful still. I just Here's the thing about Doug that I've seen over this season that is alarming is the fact that we've always before this season, even without Reich, all right, you take out the play design and whatnot and like the play calling, he was also still someone that in terms of managing the game, game time decisions and adjustments and like what you spoke of and all of that, he was someone that was on top of it. I mean, like he set the trend that we have now for teams going for it on fourth down. Now you see all over the place. Teams are going for a fourth down left and right because analytics say this and that. And Doug set that trend. Doug was made known as someone who was a player's coach, always listened to his players, stuff like that. He made great decisions with the roster in terms of who to get playing time, how to use them. There were things outside of scheme and play design that I hung my hat on when it came to Doug, and I had faith in Doug. And earlier this year, even when the play calling was struggling, I was like, if Doug just gives up play calling, I have enough faith in him as a leader of men, as a leader of a football team to be able to still be successful. What I've seen from him progressively over the past few weeks, especially on this losing streak, is that has gone out the window. His press conferences are atrocious. What he says in them is horrible. The dialogue, the way he's managing this team, the game time decisions, everything that I thought he was still good at is he's not good at anymore. And then we all know, like we don't have to rehash, but we all know the issues with Howie Roseman. I've said weeks now on the show that Howie hasn't been horrible, but the misses have been horrendous. Like he will be good on day 3. His day 3 picks have been pretty damn good. But when you miss way too many times on day 1 and day 2 of the draft, that's bad because now you're missing out on top talent players, like top tier players, and you can't do that. And so, and remember back then too with Howie, he supplemented his shortcomings in the draft by being aggressive with trades and making great free agent signings. He's not doing that anymore. No, he's not being aggressive. He's not making these lucrative deals for up and coming free agents. I mean, the Brandon Brooks signing was awesome, and the Malcolm Jenkins one, I didn't know that was Howie, but I mean that was Chip. I mean, but like there were several, like McLeod at the time. These were great deals. He hasn't been doing that anymore. He's not savvy in free agency as he once was to supplement his shortcomings with the draft. So I just feel, and considering everything that's going on, the fact that Doug now is talking about, oh, we got to establish the run and simplify things, incorporate a short passing game more, and he's doing this for Hertz, and not this when it should have been done weeks ago to help Carson when he was struggling. That's appalling. So I do not have faith right now in this regime. I don't. I think if I'm going to be honest, and I think the best chance that Wentz has to be successful would be on another team than opposed to this team with this regime, with this coaching staff, and with Howie. I think he would be better off. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying ideally, if you put him on the Colts, for example, that's the name that people want to bring up the most. It makes so much sense. You put him on the Colts, and you can see him have so much more success than he's having now. So sadly, I don't think he's going to be great with this regime anymore. I agree with you. And I think that this offseason, if they're going to still give Wentz one more year, major changes have to be made with this from top to bottom. Major changes. And if they don't happen, I'm going to be very skeptical that this team can bring out the best in Carson and start winning again. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, you need organizational changes, on-field personnel changes, coaching staff changes. There's got to be a lot of shakeup here. There has to be a wake-up call. This organization needs to change direction because the direction it's heading in is down a real dark path, and it's going to be a long time and a lot of rough years if we continue on this path. But let's get to some of the comments here.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of comments that have come in. Are you able to manage them, Chuck?
Yeah, I'm trying
right,
to go back to see some.
So Matt Spillane says the shit the players have been coming out and saying, both current and former Eagles. I'd be surprised if Howie makes it to January 3rd. Respectfully disagree. I don't think Howie goes anywhere. Jay Koch, corners play 10 yards of the line of scrimmage and still get burned every time. It's a joke. Todd Womack, exactly, Chrome. Where are the adjustments? Nowhere, brother. Nowhere. Jay says, is free safety McLeod trash too and can't recall the last time he's had help over the top and made a play. I mean, even Rodney hasn't had a great year either. He hasn't been terrible, but Rodney hasn't had a great year either. And I think Rodney is a real solid safety in this league. I think he's played very, very well in this, for this team. In the body of work, nobody looks good out there right now. It's appalling. It's appalling. It's good. It's discouraging.
This is why, like McLeod, I think has been solid overall. You know what I mean? Like, he hasn't been terrible. I agree with you. He hasn't been terrible, but like when you're a free safety, especially in Jim Schwartz's defense where he plays so much cover 3 and McLeod is the single high, like. McLeod is the type of player where, he'll make some plays like in the run game, he'll come down. But when you think of a game-changing free safety that can mask a lot of these deficiencies of your corners, you keep it. Like, you're talking about guys like Ed Reed, Earl Thomas. Right now, you got guys like Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons. Like, they are top-tier free safeties that when they play over top, they can mask a lot of those mistakes. They can make plays on the ball on these deep balls that have been killing us the last few weeks. They have that range to cover the whole field from that spot. McLeod isn't that type of safety anymore. He hasn't been that since 2018 before injury, and he's not that now. And he's not terrible, but he's not making a difference. And that's why myself, like I've been saying, free safety is a need for this team. I've been saying that for past couple of years in the draft. You need a free safety. Like, you need someone over the top. We have a bunch of box safeties, like, Mills. He's been garbage at safety. But I mean, we had Will Parks. We let him go. We drafted Kayvon Wallace, who's a box safety, but for some reason this past game they put him at free safety and had him play single high, which is not what he did in college. So why are you putting him there? Why are you putting him there? So all of these like safeties we have in the box safeties that play a certain role, but we don't have. The only free safety we have is McLeod, and he's not even that great at it. He's just okay. So it doesn't make sense.
Shaw Herndon, Doug has been here with Howie for 5 years besides the Super Bowl year. They're under 500 team. A wholesale change needs to happen. Wentz has talent, but like Tom said, Carson Wentz is mentally weak-minded, and no coach can help him with his insecurities. I don't think Tom said that.
I don't remember that either.
No, I don't recall him ever saying that.
I think he was knocking his play, but
listen, I mean, he's knocking his play, and listen, it's not there between the ears this year. There's no doubt about that. I actually disagree with the fact that with the mental game, though, because you look at things like last year and putting that team on his back to get them to the playoffs, I think tells a hell of a lot about the mental capacity of him. And, oh, by the way, a lot of games in the beginning of that year, guys dropping footballs where they would have had a much better record where he would have had to do that last year. But despite the shortcomings of other players, Nelson Aguilar on this team, to name one, last year, Carson backed into the corner, was able to get himself out of the corner and come out swinging and get them across that finish line to the playoffs. So let's pump the brakes on that. But, it's interesting the thing that Geoff Mosher, and if you're just joining us, thank you guys for watching Birds of a Feather on A2D Radio, or if you're listening on podcast platform in a syndication. We had Geoff Mosher on of Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com earlier, longtime Eagles sports writer, reporter. And one of the things that I thought interesting when he brought up when he talked about the reactionary moves in terms of drafting a Jalen Hurts, to mimic almost the style of what Taysom Hill is with the Saints, and to make up for the miss on Russell Wilson when they could have traded up and they decided not to, thinking they were good where they were. But interesting to think about that. I don't want to bring up any bad memories here, Chucks, but when you look at that situation, and I think about how it's like a pick and choose situation with where they want to, make up for past discretions where they missed. Yeah. I look at the wide receiver position, and does Jalen Reagor have a spot in this league? Absolutely. But when you're a team that desperately needs a big receiver, for some reason this team doesn't seem to like big receivers, like the Julio Jones style wide receiver. I really truly feel that way. I mean, in past, and we're not talking about the Andy era when you had Terrell Owens. We're talking about now, over the last however many handful of years. They went out and they got an Alshon Jeffrey, but really historically under this regime.
J-Jaw.
Oh yeah, J-Jaw. Oh God, I almost forget he's here. But they whiff on that. You look at you look and there's an opportunity there to grab Jefferson to make up for the massive miss on DK Metcalf last year, and you pass on it. And I don't know if they're in love with those guys who are deep ball stretch the field guys like a Deshaun Jackson, but I've never looked at Deshaun Jackson as a number one wide receiver on a football team. I've always looked at him as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. He's not a guy that you build a wide receiving core. And this year you needed to find a guy who has the potential to build a wide receiving core around. Then you go and you find the Jalen Reagors after that to complement, the rest of the offense. I do find it fascinating that they didn't approach this year's draft when looking at wide receiver, or at least in my opinion, the same way that they looked at, we have to go out and get Jalen Hurts to make up for our past discretions. But as far as the wide receiving position, we're not going to look at it that way. What do you think about that, Chucks?
So I know you weren't here last week. We talked about, was it last week or the weekend? No, it was last week.
Last week I wasn't here.
It was me, Pete, and Tom, and we went on a whole thing about the wide receiver thing. And if you guys missed it, we posted clips on it. And, as someone that – where should I start? There's a lot to unpack. So, as someone that was a Reagor fan, we all know that, my reaction is all over A2D, social media and everything. And it forever will be, and I'll live with that. But what I will say is that I never, for one, people need to be reminded that I never hated Jefferson. I had the same draft grade on both of them as first rounders. So any success that Jefferson has is not surprising to me. I knew Jefferson was going to be a stud. The difference was I was higher on Reagor than most people. And the reason I was higher on them because I saw the potential of, hey, this is someone who is not just, I get your point about Deshaun Jackson. And if I had seen Deshaun Jackson, I wouldn't have graded him that high. But when I saw him, I saw a potential of someone like Tyreek Hill or someone like Steve Smith. That's what I saw as his ceiling. I saw some rawness, but I saw hey, if he can figure this out, this guy is someone who can be a wide receiver 1. Not everyone agreed, and that's why I don't mind it. I don't mind if people didn't see the same thing, but that's just personally how I saw it. Now, last week we talked about, I think I'd mentioned, I think it was a Jeff McClain article where it was made known that the scouts were pushing for Jefferson, but the coaches were pushing, the coaching staff were pushing for Reagor because they felt that they could do more with Reagor because they used 12 personnel a lot. They had the 2 tight ends in Hertz and Goddard, and they felt that they needed the speed to push it over the top, and that was more so what they needed for this offense. Whereas they saw, I'm not saying I did, they saw Jefferson as just as mainly a slot guy, which is incorrect, but I'm just saying what they saw. So Howie decided to go with the coaches and say, if the coaches have a game plan for Reagor, and they know how they want to use them, then I want to go with Reagor. What makes me really mad, 2 things. What makes me really mad is, one, if you're the coaching staff and you went to Howie and you said you had a plan for Reagor, it's definitely not showing right now because they have him running all vertical routes and curl routes at the sticks and then maybe a couple screens. Why are you not running like crossers, slant routes? Just what Mosher was saying, like there's none of those underneath stuff to get Reagor in space. So what was your plan? And then 2, I'm really pissed off at Reagor. I mean, I will not hide it. Like what I'm seeing right now is not what I saw from his college tape. Now, granted, he ran more crossers in college and double move stuff, but he's still my biggest issue right now with Reagor is that he's not running full speed on all of his routes, and I hate that because that's laziness and that's a lack of effort. I hate that. I see him jogging way too much, and it pisses me off to no end. And then 2, these vertical routes that he's running, he's not getting separation on them because he thinks that he can just beat the corner in press man just with his speed. And I explained it last week to Pete and Tom, like at the line, he's getting a clean release, but he's not doing anything to get the corner to commit one way to get that extra separation. He's just running as if he's so much faster than the corner that he can just blow by him. But newsflash, Jalen, in the NFL, corners are much faster than they were in college. Much faster. You got to do more than just run straight ahead to get by them. You've got to have a better release. You've got to attack leverage so that they bite one way, and then you have that extra inch of separation to go down the field, and then now you have a window. But he's not doing that. He's not getting separation, and he's not fighting through contact well. And so the Reagor I'm seeing now is not the same one I saw in college, and it makes me mad because that is it on Reagor? Yes. And is it on the coaches? Yes. And it really sucks. And I get that, right now it looks really bad that they skipped out on Jefferson, and I admit that. And I look really bad because I advocated for Reagor. But hey, like if I'm wrong on Reagor, and I said this to someone in the chat earlier on the show, if I'm wrong on Reagor, I'm wrong on Reagor. Like I will admit it. I don't mind saying I was wrong. I think though I will say this too, but and Tom agreed to it, and he said it at the beginning of the show. It's way too soon for wide receivers. Sometimes it takes them a little while. It takes them 2 or 3 years to become what they really want to be. And Mosher even said it, like we had no offseason. Reagor was injured and blah blah blah. So it's way too soon to say that Reagor can't be special. But I totally understand people's like hesitance and frustration because right now Jefferson looks like an all-out stud who's gonna be the rookie of or offensive rookie of the year, and he would get my vote. So he looks like he's gonna be offensive rookie of the year, and meanwhile we have Reagor who can't get open deep. So I get and I totally understand, and I want people to realize that I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just as mad as anyone else. Like he pisses me off too.
Well, to me, see, that's a problem for me in terms of the draft. Then the fact that we're going by the coaching staff. Oh, here we go. Here he is. We're going by the coaching staff in terms of, okay, we have a game plan. We talk about it all the time. So you have to go best available. And I know that you personally had them graded the same. However, the majority of opinion, and when you talk about people who were, who really do follow the college football professionally, had Jefferson a little bit higher than Reagor. I think they both were first-round grades. Maybe Rager might have even been a high second round, but around the same ballpark.
Yeah. He wasn't too far.
But you look at it, and that's a case where, again, Howie gets fixated on something. Whether it's we're going to get fixated on the player because the coaches told me that we have this game plan that we're going to be able to work out for him, whatever. Instead of going best available on the board. He was an ideal fit at the time, Jefferson, for what it seemed like we needed here. And again, I don't know, guys. Maybe it's just me. I'm not, I don't watch a ton of college football, but I look at his game film even now and go back to what he did in college. I never saw Justin Jefferson as just a slot guy. I mean, there's a skill set there, and I think it's showing here in the pros. And some guys even turn that corner right away when they come into the pros. They get to that next level right away. And I feel like he's one of those guys who fell into their lap as the ideal situation. And again, we're not using the proper mentality in making these decisions on draft day. And that is an issue for me with Howie. Yeah. Sometimes you have to supersede that. You have to take a look and say, well, you know what, this doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, but to me, I know what you're saying in terms of Steve Smith and Tyreek Hill, but to me, those guys, and particularly Steve Smith, who was only 5'9", was just a special kind of player. You know what I mean?
I love Steve Smith, yeah.
When you're looking at those kind of guys in today's NFL, with the size of these guys, they're just special. I don't think you can draft to have the next Tyreek Hill or the next Steve Smith. I almost feel like a lot of times those guys need to fall into your lap. You need to look more of the Julio Jones type of a guy, the Larry Fitz and these type of guys, a little bit of a bigger size guys. Yeah, exactly. DeAndre Hopkins, another great name. I feel like those are the type of guys that you need to look at when you're drafting when you're a team that doesn't have one and you're drafting to build around a quarterback who just came off his rookie deal. That's the type of guys you need to be looking at. I don't know how they could have this game. Was the game plan to have Alshon Jeffrey in his prime all year, and that's where we were going to have him fall in? Because that would be ridiculous. That's the only way that makes sense to me. I never understood the regular draft pick. I want to see the kid succeed. I think that there's a definitive skill set there. I definitely think he can stretch the field. But who is he stretching the field for? Because to me, Zach Ertz isn't enough. Even if Zach Ertz was playing like Zach Ertz, it's not enough. You need to have a wide receiver one on this football team. You have a running back who has shown flashes and who I think we believe ultimately will be a definitive number one running back in this league. I'm not saying elite, but a top 10, top 15 running back in this league, maybe a little bit higher, which is fine. You have a tight end. You may have your replacement tight end in Dallas Goedert, but you can't get the answer at wide receiver. They cannot figure it out with a young guy, which makes them have to go out and get Alshon Jeffrey, have to give him an awful contract extension with a boatload of guaranteed money that's now handcuffing the organization, that now puts them in a position, as Geoff Mosher was talking about earlier, that you have to put him on the field. You feel like you have to put him on the field over a kid who who led the league in wide receiving for 4 weeks this year. And this is the situation. Again, all these circumstances that continue to fall into the place start at the top with the general manager and Howie Roseman making the personnel decisions. And that's a problem for me.
Mm-hmm. I get it. And, hey, I think that to compound on what you were saying about, like, him, who was it? Jefferson, the notion of him being just a slot guy. Like, I think people they need to stop. They need to be clear on something. Like with Jefferson, he ran out of the slot in LSU in his final year there because the other they had other wide receivers running on the outside, and they were like, okay, like we don't know where to put you. We're going to put you in the slot. Now, just because a wide receiver is in the slot, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Look at Michael Thomas and look at Keenan Allen. Two of the best. They're two of the. They're near the top wide receivers in the league. They run majority out of the slot. why do wide receivers get put in the slot a lot? Because when you are that elite at route running, putting you in the slot is where you maximize that skill set. You have a two-way go. You can get open left or right. You can go vertical. So offenses will put these wide receivers in the slot so they can be like, this is going to be even more of a mismatch. And so with Jefferson, he's the Vikings are using him so well because I've been watching every game of his because I'm very impressed with what he's done. Like Jefferson, they use a lot of narrow splits, so they'll have like the wide receivers tight with the formation, like similar to what the Rams do a lot. And even though to people like he's lined up as the outermost wide receiver, he's still in a slot formation because he's within that, like near the hashes. And what they do, they use him on a bunch of different routes, crossers, verticals, a lot of different things. So they're maximizing his skill set, and that's what you're supposed to do. And Jefferson is capitalizing. He's having like a historic year, and kudos to him. And I think anyone that wanted Jefferson, and I said it before, I never had a problem with anyone wanting Jefferson. I never did. I said if you like Jefferson more, I totally understand. I think that the issue was this for me, like just understand, like the Eagles were looked at as the slowest offense in the league. Kaplan, Greg Cosell had said that the teams looked at the Eagles as the slowest offense in the league. So one of the biggest needs, because they play so much 12 personnel with two tight ends, is they needed speed on the outside. And so that's why they went with Reagor. And with Reagor, I just honestly, I get what you're saying, that like sometimes talents like Steve Smith and Tyreek Hill, they're more the exception than the trend. And I totally understand that. And you might be right about that. And so if that's a flaw in my evals, then that's something that I will have to consider going forward. But that's why I was so enamored with Reagor, because I saw what he could be. And I saw someone that wasn't just a speed guy. He is tough as nails. He's rocked up. Like, he's not skinny like D-Jax. He has a good build, but right now he doesn't know how to use that strength, and he has a lot to learn in route running. And I hope that over this offseason, Aaron Moorhead is what we had hoped he was as a coach, and we'll start to get that out of him and develop those parts of Reagor, because right now he's not looking good. And hopefully a lot of his routes start to change. They get him on some crossers and everything, but it's tough. It's tough right now.
Yeah, and and I look at Reagor, to me it was almost, I look at him more of a pick of, a lack of confidence that Deshaun Jackson was going to stay on the football field. And again, reactionary decisions to me instead of being proactive. That's an indictment on the decision makers. And, you talk about slot guys. Look at the career that Wes Welker had. Guy lived in the slot and had a hell of a career. Was one of the top wide receivers, top producers for a long time. I don't know. Bothers me. It really bothers me, that situation. What else we got on tap, Chucks?
All right. So, I mean, we talked about Hertz and everything. Well, the controversy with Wentz. We discussed.
Let's discuss it a little further. I don't think we really dove too much into that. So other than what we talked about with Geoff, I'll ask you, or I'll answer first. We kind of talked about it earlier. Is this Carson's job to lose next year? Let's put it that way. I believe, and whether if you're a Hertz guy, sorry guys, it's going to hurt your feelings, or you're going to tell me I'm crazy. I think the move right now, start Hertz the rest of the year, unless he's getting killed back there. You start Hertz the rest of the year. Let Carson sit and think about it, kind of like we were talking about with Geoff earlier. And I think I mentioned this the other night too, on After Dark on Tuesday night. But to me, you come into next year, we have to stop. This isn't Madden, right? We don't just make moves. There are financial repercussions for making certain decisions. Carson Wentz for the next 2 years is your quarterback. And if he's not your starting quarterback, he's going to be a really expensive backup quarterback. He is not getting traded for a team that is $50+ million over the cap next year. If you trade him, not even cut him, if you trade him, it's a $50 million plus. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. I know you guys usually do. A $50+ million cap hit in the dead cap. You in a team that is absolutely in cap hell for next year. You're not going to double your number over the cap for next year. So now what do you do? You have to hope that Carson comes back next year and Carson is in a better place. And he's like Geoff talked about, like you guys were talking about earlier, he's fixed or somewhat fixed. At this point, I would take a 75% Carson over what we have right now. You'd win a couple more football games, that's for damn sure. You'd be winning this division. But to me, Carson went, no matter what Hertz does this year, unless he wins out or only loses one game. Let's just say he goes 3 out of 4. We got 4 games left, right?
I think 4 games.
I don't even think it's a controversy going into next year. The only way Carson Wentz isn't your quarterback is if he comes back next year and we're still seeing the same stuff we saw this year. Not from previous years that we see this year. It's Carson's job to lose. I roll with Jalen the rest of the way unless he gets killed back there. I think it'd be really hard at this point for the rest of the year for Jalen to lose his job. But I want to get your thoughts on that. Is this Carson's job to lose next year, or is it Jalen's job to win?
I think it's Carson's job to lose for next year. I think this year we're going to see Hertz the rest of the year. I mean, especially this week, he's going against one of the best defenses in the league. And I don't think even if he struggles, I don't think it's fair to judge him off of that. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going against your first start is going to be against a defense like the Saints, you need some more time. And I think, I have doubts about Hertz. After watching him in college, like there are things. I don't know if you've been on the show when I've talked about Hertz, my evaluation of Hertz, but like his arm is solid. It's a good arm, above average arm, but it's not elite. Like it's not an elite arm like Wentz's arm. And Hertz is someone that he's a run first quarterback. He's a good power runner, great teammate, hard worker. We all know this, and he's an awesome guy to cheer for, but he's also someone who has shown to struggle at going through progressions and being a passer from the pocket. Oftentimes he'll be one read and then he'll run out of the pocket. And so I have question marks of when it comes to Hertz as a franchise QB in this league, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't want him to prove me wrong. I really would like to see what Rager can do, and I hope that he does well these next 4 games. And I hope that he at least can be someone that could be a really, really good backup for us, or if he is the future, then he's the future. And I will take it. I think with Hertz, though, we have to temper our expectations and also be fair when it comes to him. I mean, I think you both would agree, now that we have Tom back, I think you both would agree that with Hertz, that it's not – where was I going with this? I think we both would agree that over the next 4 games, we don't expect him to light the world on fire with how this team looks. You know what I mean? Like, there's still the problems with the O-line. There's still the problems with the play calling, et cetera, et cetera. Like, those problems don't go away. So it's not like I expect him to be the starter and then the Eagles are all of a sudden going to put up 30 points a game. But I think that we also have to be fair going forward and say, like, hey, just because he has a tough outing here and there, that doesn't mean he's garbage. But at the same time, don't overhype anything. And Philly's going to do this. But, any positive he does do, don't overreact too much to it either. There's always an even
Well,
an objective look at it, and in terms of okay,
there is, but if he goes out and against the number one defense over the last 4 weeks in the National Football League, if not the whole season, and he goes out and plays extremely well Sunday, I know, listen, it's a small sample size, but this city and who they're playing.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be overreaction city. The exact question, what was the exact question again? It did not overhype his 4 games.
Well, the question is, the initial question that Chuck started with was, is it Carson's job to lose or Jalen's job to win going into next year? And that's when Chuck kind of started getting into Jalen and what his success or lack of success this year can mean.
Well, I don't know. Anytime you're paying a guy that much money, it's his job to lose, I would think, right? So,
Agreed.
I'll stick with that. But, that being said, I think this organization, if they see if a guy plays really well in these last 4 games, that might open up that competition a little bit more. Fair? Going into next year. If he plays really well, then it's going to open it up a little bit more. But I still think they have every intention of hoping Carson wins it, right? Next year. But, we talked about last night, Chrome, or not last night, but the other night is
Tuesday night.
Yeah, it's Tuesday night, was that, he's going to be able to make up for some of your flaws in a couple weeks span because he can run around. And it's going to make up for bad route running. It'll make up for bad O-line play at times. And at times enough where you can maybe score 24 points. You know what I'm saying? Which would be exciting for us. Which would be glorious. We don't even know what that feels like. So that's my thoughts.
I forget what it feels like.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. He'll be able to help out in a small sample size, right? He'll be able to help us out because he's not going to be scared to run around. Not that Carson's scared to run around. He just hasn't. Chucks, we talked about it a couple of weeks before. The only way we're going to win some of them games coming up on our schedule that we knew were tough was Carson was going to have to make plays with his legs.
Mm.
And he didn't do that enough, right? And at times he did it in the Seattle game at that last drive before the half, and they scored a touchdown. Sometimes you got to tuck it and run it when things break down and you don't have good enough stuff in front of you. And I think Jalen will do that for a week. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire. But I also think, when you can run on third down and pick up a first down with your legs as a quarterback, it breaks defenses down. So I think that's the one advantage he has right now that Carson really wasn't displaying too much of. Fair?
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's weird because I don't know what's happened because Carson in his prime, remember, he is someone that was great at making those second reaction plays out of structure. 2017, he was one of the best. We were looking at him as he was like Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? Before he came onto the scene, Wentz was the guy that was like, oh my God, after, what's he going to do now? He's going to make something out of nothing. And so I don't know where that's gone. And I know that part of it has to do with the protection because when you're a quarterback and your protection has been porous all season, you start to see ghosts and you start to put your eyes down at the pressure to see the pressure coming before you need to. And Carson's never been someone who has great pocket management. You know what I mean? He's had great legs, but you wouldn't mistake him for a Tom Brady who knows the soft spots in the pocket to slide ever so slightly to the left, right, slide up. You know what I mean? He's not that type of quarterback. His pocket management has always been lackluster, but he's had the athleticism to escape pressure, get out of the pocket. But I don't know what's happened to that, and we'll see. When you have an offense right now where the scheme is not looking good, the wide receivers aren't looking good. You need a quarterback who's going to create out of structure because that structure is failing the offense right now. So Hertz, I agree with you. I think Hertz is going to make some plays with his legs, because that's just how he plays. He's going to run around. He's going to look at his first read. If it's not there, he's going to run around and see if anyone can work their way open and, get open just off second reaction. And sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes it's not. And we'll see how, if he can at least keep the negative plays to a minimum and not turn it over. At least you can't turn it over. And that's the biggest no-no.
Yeah, I think for Jalen Hurts to be able to grab this position and put himself in a good spot to get the start, he's going to have like a Tom Brady rookie year stepping in for Drew Brees type of situation, like some kind of a phenomenal, unbelievable last 4 games. I think you're going to see some things. I do think that there's going to be a spark and something different. And again, though, me and Chucks were talking earlier, Tom. I don't know if you heard this part when you had to hop off for a little bit. When we were talking about how when you saw Nick Foles, Doug adjusted the offense to him. I don't know that I've seen them ever do that for Carson. But it would not shock me now if they make adjustments to the offensive scheme for Jalen Hurts to maximize his situation. And if I see that this week, but that's my problem, right? If I see that this week, it's going to piss me off. Because, again, I don't know if Doug just, takes Carson for granted or, he just thinks that he's going to be able to adapt to anything, so he just kind of goes about his business as opposed to feeling that he has to coddle some of these guys like Nick Foles or Jalen Hurts. But for whatever reason, I don't see those adjustments have ever really been put into place for Carson. But yet, when a new guy steps in, we see it. So I think we're going to see some different things.
I think they rely so much on Carson to make big plays that, that's what they game plan for. And you're going to see a lot of running plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not looking – Carson's clearly not seeing the field. We talked about, what he looked like before his first couple of years in the league, particularly 2017 and his rookie year, and you talked about he made a lot of plays with his legs. He extended plays outside of the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
There he is. He made a lot of really good plays and made plays to create opportunities for guys to get open. The offensive line's not giving him that time to do it. I think he's panicking right now, and he's just not seeing the field because there are opportunities for Carson to run out of the pocket, whether whatever he's going to do, and to try to extend plays and create plays. And I feel like for Carson, and this is not an excuse because it's inexcusable still to me. I'm just saying, in what I feel like is this is a guy who is just feeling like there's a freaking avalanche falling over him, and he just doesn't know which way to go at this point. Like, no matter what he does, he's not going to be able to do anything. He's not going to be able to stop it, and he's going to try to do too much, and he's going to end up getting buried. And he needs to figure that out. He has to be more intelligent and have a higher football IQ that we know that he has because he's shown that he has it. 2020 Carson Wentz, I hope that next year when we come back, there's a thing as 2020 Carson Wentz. I thought the point you made the other day, Tom, was really valid too. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this league, and if you really look back and you look at year 5, after they got their contract extensions, took steps back. I don't know that they took quite the level of steps back that Carson's taken, but there is a trend in this league of quarterbacks taking a step back in year 5 after they get their contract extension. I hope that that's what it is. And in 2021, with a regular offseason, with a regular training camp, hopefully, and hopefully some better personnel decisions, this kid can get back on track.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It's Peyton Manning's like the one name that comes to you, who had a really bad year, and he had 3 Hall of Famers around him. So, I mean, you complain about talent and all that, but I believe that year he got hit around a ton. If I remember, that's just what I remember from it. But that's the other thing too, is you put a lot of pressure. We know Carson's a guy who puts a lot of pressure on himself to be great. And when you get that kind of contract, you're putting the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you're trying to hit every play for a home run. And that's why I believe so much in him audibling at the line and him trying to make everything up in one play, make every bad play up in one play. And when you try to do that, right, is when you're not going to have success in this league, right? And I see that's what happens a lot. And I think that's the reason we don't run the ball a lot. And I say that a million times because I think he changes out of so many things. And that might be another reason he's getting put down, right? Because you're changing out of stuff and it's not working. You know, and how many times are we going to game plan for doing it a certain way and then maybe the hero ball sets in? You know, and that's speculation, but him audible at the line isn't speculation. You know, I mean, we know when the headset stops, and we know every play goes down to 1 second. Every play goes down to 1 second. So take that for what it is. You know, we talk about run slants and do this and do that and run the football, and I'm right there with everybody. I'm right there on your trains. But, you know, I've been saying it for a couple of weeks now, Chrome. You've heard it. How much is he audible and out of stuff and playing for the home run? And when you make this many mistakes, what's it tell me? It's like a strike. It's like a guy who strikes out a lot. You know, hits a bunch of home runs but strikes out a ton. Well, guess what? Now you're not hitting homers. And you're striking out a ton.
And we never really know, like, because we don't know the calls at the line specifically. And, you know, every time he says kill, you know, what he's calling to. We really don't. And I know, I mean, what your point is, it's absolutely valid because we know that Carson has a lot of leeway in calling plays at the line, making audibles. You know, Doug trusts him with that. I did hear that. Who was it that said it? I think it was either Kaplan that reported it or it was Greg Cosell or Kist. But one of them had said that Carson is audibling a lot to the run too. So I think it is working both ways. I think that he's trying to just see what the offense is giving him and then making the best, you know, adjustment.
That's what you want.
There's a lot of this also with the RPOs where a lot of the calls are made post snap. You know, like he's reading with these RPOs, he's reading the defender where he sees the defender committing to, and then he's using that as an adjustment. So if the defender, I know with a lot of these RPOs, I've seen a bunch of them where he's handed it off, but I've also seen a bunch of the RPOs where he's kept it. So, you know, some of them were I could argue that he shouldn't have, and others I'd say it was the right decision. I think that, you know, the whole run-pass ratio thing, that the Eagles aren't committing enough to the run, I think it's legitimate. There's just more to it that people don't see because I agree. It's not just, I'll admit, it's not just Doug. Doug is not the one going out there making all the decisions in terms of, you know, should it be a run or pass play. It's also been Carson. And it's also been Carson making adjustments at the line pre-snap and making decisions post-snap with the RPOs that he runs.
I'm alive, according to Chris.
Real quick, too.
What's up, Nick?
Before you get to Chris, Paul Holubowski, by the way, says it's amazing everyone's hatred for the Wentz or for the Hertz pick now hates Wentz. Tom will vouch for this, buddy. Don't worry. We got receipts here. And I've already started calling them out. I've been already exposing people for all those people who were shitting on the Wentz or the Hertz pick, or are the people who 2 weeks ago were on this show sitting there defending Carson till the very end, and all of a sudden this week now they're talking about how absolute trash he is, as if they were all season on the Hertz bandwagon. So don't worry, bud. There's a lot, and it's not just me. I've seen Dad and some of the other people on this station start calling it. So we got plenty of receipts. When your name pops up, we remember. Don't worry about that. What's up, Nick?
What's up, guys?
Nick Mazzilio, A2D contributor, fantasy football contributor, and everything else. Also, guy who still has my fucking Facebook friend request in purgatory. Thanks, buddy. You son of a bitch. No, I'm kidding. Nick, awesome to have you, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate being on again. It's always a pleasure to be on. I see Tom's in his king chair tonight, so he must be feeling good.
No,
Chrome has a different background. He's got a grayish background.
No. That's Blue Lagoon. Blue Lagoon. Welcome to where the magic happens.
Let's not do this again.
And Chuck's just Mr. Consistent with the office chair in the background.
I'm actually in the nursery because it's the only room where I can get privacy.
Yeah,
my son's nursery, so This is the rocking chair that we rock him to sleep in.
There you go. That's good. Yeah, no, listen, I think you guys hit on everything, man. I mean, it got ugly last week for sure. And we're gonna find out how good or how not good Jalen Hurts is gonna be on Sunday. But I think you guys just hit on everything. So it's really been, I was thinking before I came on here, I said what I was thinking was how exactly did we get here? Just how did we arrive? You look at 3 years ago and he was in MVP form. I mean, he pretty much is the MVP until he got hurt. But and ever since then, it's just been down. It's just been a downward spiral. And I think, like I said, I think you guys hit a lot of points. I mean, he has to be rebuilt. He probably needs a whole new coaching staff. He needs better weapons around him. He has had absolutely nothing. He has had absolutely no help either from the coaching staff or the front office. They've tried, but they just haven't hit, and it hasn't been good enough. And now here we are. Chrome.
You reach 12 slots in the draft every time, or 15 slots in the draft every time. You're not going to hit.
Yeah. Well, I think what you guys are saying about him being rebuilt and how after the fifth year, and 5 years and that second contract for the quarterbacks, I've seen this story plenty of times, and my gut feeling tells me that Carson's going to bounce back in a big way, whether it's here or whether it's somewhere else. I've seen this too many times. So, I don't think that 2017 Carson is gone. I mean, I've been a Carson supporter ever since we drafted him. I still believe in the guy, but right now, you have to do the best option going forward right now to see what you have in Jalen Hurts. And, from there, 2021 is a whole different ball game. It's a new season. But the biggest thing this offseason is going to be about either A, committing to him, or B, if you even dare trade him,
can't. You can't. No, you can't. Where you getting the money? Who are we playing with next year, Nick? You got to be able to supply bonuses to guys. You got to be able to pay the bills. How are you going 100+ million over the cap and not signing guys at your local grocery store or guys that pump your gas this week?
I wanted to throw this scenario out there because most likely they're probably going to have a top 5, maybe a top 4 pick. Who the hell knows? Depending on how the rest of the season ends, but
top 5.
You got Fields, you got Lawrence 1, 2, and then sitting. After that it's Trey Lance, which would be quite the story, if you will. The guy replaces Carson, comes in and replaces him in Philadelphia. I mean, that would be a hell of a story. But what I'm getting at is that, and I believe by the third day of the new league year in 2021, his 2022 salary at $15 million is guaranteed for 2022. So if you trade him before that, then you're really only eating a $25 million bill instead of a $38 million bill. But it's something to consider, and I'm not saying I would consider it, but there's talk out there that potentially that is the case. And then if you're at number 4 or 5, it might be a reach taking. Really the top 2 guys are Lawrence and Fields. Lance could be a stretch at number 4, but if you're in the 6-7 range, I'm not saying I would take him, but could it be worth investing in a quarterback if you don't like what you see out of Hertz and if they decide to trade Carson?
No, Nick. No, because there's too much.
So it's emphatic no.
No,
too many moving parts in that.
He's not getting
traded everywhere else. We're so bad everywhere else. We need so many needs. You can't go drafting a quarterback again. This has got to be your guy next year, and then you can go from there. And it plays like it again next year, then you sort of have your answer. Then you deal them and get whatever you can get back at that point, which might not be anything worthwhile, and you move on and you stink anyway, and then you go for that quarterback.
It's a hypothetical. Yeah. It's just a hypothetical.
But it's just I don't know if it can work money-wise. I just don't know if it can work because we won't have a roster next year. So then
the thing to understand too, guys, is for them to take on that dead cap hit, they would have to get a lot back in draft compensation. And with the way that Carson has played this year, nobody is giving up the capital to give you to Carson what you need to justify taking that cap hit. There's a lot of factors. People think this is Madden and you can just make moves and there's no repercussions. It
Right.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
There's a
No, you're right, Cro.
financial investment and a financial backlash that happens by just moving on from a guy. Sorry, guys, you can't just move on from a quarterback after the rookie deal.
Right.
At that point, if you have extended them, guess what? That's your ride or die. You better figure it out. You better start getting along and learning to like each other, guys, because you're going to be together for a while.
Can I say, guys, what my concern is here? Because I do think there's probably going to be a coaching change, and I think that's what Carson needs. I think that's what this organization needs. My concern is that Jeffrey Laurie, for whatever reason, decides that Howie is still the guy to rebuild this thing.
He will be.
I never understood, and I still don't understand at this point, where we're at right now and how we've kind of gone, like I said, in a downward spiral. What stands out in terms of Roseman and how he is the guy to rebuild this thing after he's obviously proven that he can't. So my worry is that, Doug's fired, but Howie still has all of his control. And, who's to say that if we're in the top 6 or 7 pick, whatever we may have, who's to say he even gets that right? And who knows what he's going to do with the salary cap at this point? I mean, he's totally bungled that. So, I'm worried about the loyalty that Laurie might show to Roseman in the offseason, because I think you got a clean house at this point.
I don't know if he does, though. I agree with you. I think we all agree. Like we want Howie out, but I don't think that's going to happen. And
right, I don't think it is. I don't think so either, Chucks. Yeah. But
in regard to his contract, I've been trying to follow everything that or research anything that I can, and yes, the only smidgen of hope you have to unload Carson, if they wanted to, would be to trade him before the 3rd day of the new league year upcoming. Right. And to do that, if they do that, they would unload his, I think it's 25 mil salary, but then they would also be taking a dead cap hit, of 30 plus.
Right.
So it's, and Andrew Brandt, he used to work in the league with front office and with contracts and everything, so he knows all of this, and he keeps saying, people that say oh, it's an offset, you're saving 20 plus million, but you're just putting that dead cap on your salary cap, so they offset each other. It's checks and balances, but no, it doesn't work that way, because you're taking on dead cap for a player that's not there. Right. The player Wentz wouldn't be here anymore; he'd be on another team. So to think that it offsets is foolish, and those are his words. And so I think that in order for a trade to be like that, they would not only have to eat more cap, they would have to give draft picks to whomever team that's going to take them, and then probably even a player or two. It's going to be too much for the Eagles to take on to get rid of him, and it's more worth it for us to hang on to him for another season than it is to get rid of him. So, like I said earlier, it's like a 99.9% chance that Wentz is going to be here next season. It's just a question of who in the regime, in the coaching staff, front office is going to be left after all this is said and done. I hope Howie's out. I hope the coaches are all out, but the chances are Howie's not going anywhere.
I need people to start thinking logically here and using their brain. I'm not saying us here. For all these people who just say, and I love JP's in all of our comment sections all the time. He watches all our shows, but I have to call out his point, his comment that he just made, and we've seen a lot of it, is I just want to see Jalen come in and win the job. If you're first of all, we got to be fans of the uniform, not the name on the back, the name on the front. That's first and foremost. If you want this organization to be in its best possible position to turn it around a lot quicker, you should be rooting for Carson Wentz to be better and keep his position. Because if this doesn't work, you are set back 4 or 5 or 6 years. Not 2 or 3 the way it's looking now. You should want to see this team succeed, and the best way for them to turn this around now so that they're not in an even worse cap situation, so that they're not further behind the ball because they don't have an established franchise quarterback, is to want to see Carson Wentz succeed, whether you personally like him or you don't. Other than that, then that's an agenda. You have an agenda against Carson and not looking out for the best interests of the organization. So we need to really take a step back and understand that if we as a fan base are rooting for Carson to fail at the position that we're in now with the financial commitment to this quarterback, then your focus is in the wrong place, and I question your true fandom then.
Yeah.
None of it makes sense to want to see your quarterback fail.
No, I don't think the majority wants to. I think right now.
I'm not saying the majority, but there's a lot of people.
No,
and we've seen it.
I don't understand it. Now, does it have to be 4 or 5 years, 6 years of the worst football ever? No, because maybe in 2 years you hit on that quarterback. You don't know. You hit on that game changer that changes your whole organization. But then you got to wait another year after that. You know what I mean? They get it. You know what I'm saying?
Get talent around him. Right.
Yeah. So it's just a lot goes into that again. It's a rebuild. It's a hoping this is the guy. It's the whole thing over again. You know what I mean? And then if the guy does have a great first year, you're like, all right, did he fool us? You know what I mean? Because we've been fooled before. We're like beating, we're like beating and battered people. You know what I mean? We can't handle it again. And we should. And I want him to succeed as an Eagles fan, like, because I know the money we just gave to him, and I know we have so many holes, and we're obviously our offensive line should be better next year. But man, I mean, we need to. We can't take that cap hit and then expect to be able to keep some guys we may want to keep or whatever moving forward the next year at least. You know what I mean? It really ties our hands with a lot of things we would probably want to do as an organization. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't, Tom. I cannot go into like the doldrums of Eagles football for the next 5 years. I mean, it's bad enough where the rest of the sports city is at this point. Now, granted, the Sixers are on the upswing, but football is kind of what we live for here. In this city, and if we get 5 years of just terrible and just awful display of football, I mean, it's just going to be a long 5 years. I agree. I want to get back to being elite. I just thought now I want to be the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFC. I want to go out there and dominate every game. I want to put the best team on the field, and people talk about you all the time. That's what it's all about, And I think, we already seen what the ceiling is for Carson Wentz. I don't think that guy is gone. I just think that a lot of surrounding factors are really affected this guy, and it's all mental at this point. And he just needs to be broken down and built up. He's got to have somebody have confidence in him. Like Chrome said, Chrome, I think you were hinting at when you said having receipts on here. I think you're hinting at that maybe that the people who like the second round pick, you're taking notes on of Hertz, and it's gonna come to roost at some point that that's gonna blow up in our face. And I mean, the draft pick of Hertz in the second round. I mean, everybody knew what that meant. Everybody knew that it was doomed to fail from the beginning. Maybe not as fast as it did, but the worst case scenario played out. And what else could you have possibly expected for a guy who already went through what he did? Just to remove himself from like the shadow of Nick Foles.
And the I lost faith in the guy. I mean, it's been a really bad year. Let's be honest. We know it's been a really bad year, but overall, when you look at his efficiency over the last couple of years, it really didn't fall off that much from the Super Bowl year.
No, it didn't.
His numbers were good. This organization loves analytics. Well, analytically, he was a pretty damn good, efficient quarterback up until this year. And again, the point I'm making, JP, is that I get that you like Jalen Hurts, but to lose faith in a guy, and all of a sudden now we want to get rid of him. We want to have somebody else run him out of town, whether it's another quarterback, whatever it is. it's not in the best interest of the team, man. If you're an Eagles fan, then guess what? Whether you believe in him or not, let me say love him or hate him. Let me take that out. Whether you believe in him or not, you should want to try. You should really want to believe in him and hope that is the guy, because that's going to set you back. And like Tom was saying, maybe it does or maybe it doesn't, but you're in a much better position knowing what this guy can do and knowing the financial commitment and having him on the field instead of that money that he would be getting paid still being dead without the player on the roster than you would be without having him. You're really rolling the dice and playing with fire without him on this roster.
No, you are, because listen, they put so much stock into him being able to carry them again, and he's having a bad year and not able to carry them, and other things have gotten worse around them, so it's been like all things thrown into one, and which makes for terrible offense, right? And I think that's what we've witnessed this year, right? Is you put too much on his shoulders this year in terms of what's around them. I think they really relied on Deshaun and Alshon and went back to that kettle and relied on them guys, and you got burned again.
Yeah, and I mean Geoff Mosher said it earlier, and again, if you missed it, after later on, go back and listen to the first 20 minutes. We had an interview with Geoff Mosher of Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, and he talked about this exact situation. There was never, when they drafted Jalen Hurts, even though it wasn't conveyed well by the organization, they didn't draft him to be a possible replacement. They drafted him to be a gadget, to be like a Taysom Hill, to partner up with Drew Brees. That was the idea. They don't believe, at least the impression that I got from what he said, and I'm not saying he said this verbatim, they don't really believe that he is the franchise quarterback of this future, Jalen Hurts. He was a gadget that they reached on big time, that they could have taken around later. And for that alone, I don't believe that just changes because Carson had a bad year. He's still the same guy. They still hesitated to put him in up until, 2 or 3 games later than we really thought we should have seen him. So I just don't understand them. And then this isn't just the UJP. This is other people. And I'm not saying that this specific point is to you. We've seen a lot of hate on Carson. People really rooting for him to lose, talking about that he's dog shit. And the fact that you want to see this, that you're taking the opportunity now to puff your chest 5 years later, just to me is silly. And then that to me shows me you have an agenda. That's not towards UJP. It's other things.
I think it's silly that the agenda, and I had mentioned this on a previous show. I don't remember if it was last week. I know you weren't here, Chrome, so I'll say it. And Nick, you obviously weren't here, but there's this whole narrative or this mindset that Wentz's contract is the worst in the league, and that we shouldn't have given him the contract when we did. That's when he got the contract, that contract extension, he was trending up. He was someone that was proving himself to be a franchise QB. I don't even have to say elite. You can take elite out of the equation, but he was someone that was thought of as a top 10 QB who would be a QB for a franchise. And he was on the Eagles. And if you look at what his numbers were, and I'm not even a huge numbers guy, but look at his numbers, what his numbers were when we gave him the extension, that was the right decision. You had you're going to not give him an extension and then risk losing him and do what Washington did with Kirk Cousins or what the Cowboys are doing now with Dak, where they could lose Dak. It's so silly. It feeds into this whole mindset that certain people with an agenda have that never liked Carson, that right now, when he's at his worst, they can pile on right now. And so oh, I told you so. Oh, I told you he wasn't that good. This was a mistake. He was never that great.
This is what everybody's doing in the chat right now, Chucks. Everybody's doing this in the chat.
Same people that were giving Carson handies in 2017.
Listen, I understand and I respect everybody's opinion in the chat. But I mean,
that's a great point right there by Grasshoppers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, right now it's exactly what it is. And some of the people who believe in Jalen Hurts, I mean, what you have to think about is that Green Bay had no time to prepare for Hertz. He came in there cold off the bench. He played pretty well. He played okay, but Green Bay didn't have any time to prepare for Hertz. So, made some nice throws, but we're going to find out, how good he is or how good he is not against a team that has a full week to prepare, and has a game plan for him and to see how he adjusts and what kind of skills he really has. So, let's not – it's really hard to judge a guy and hard to say that this is the guy after only a quarter and a half of football. And like I said, he made some nice throws, so I'm certainly giving him that credit. But
I just want to know what people like. And again, I'm not knocking Hertz because I like Hertz. I'm not knocking him, and the fact that I think that they made a bonehead move by drafting him where they did is not a knock to him. It's a knock to the organization.
Right.
However, I need to know why people say I like Hertz better than Wentz. What about him do you know about him that makes you like him? Because you want to talk about guys that underperformed. He got replaced in the national championship game because he couldn't move the football by Tua Tagovailoa.
Right.
So I wouldn't, and that was as big of a stage as you can get. So I want to know specifically what you have seen that makes you believe that he's better. What you like about him. I mean, we love him as a person. I do think I think the kid has a great tough mentality. He has skills. He should have been probably a 3rd round draft pick, and that wasn't just us saying that. Geoff Mosher and others were on here and talked about the same thing, that he was probably around a third round grade. I want to know specifically what you've seen, and I don't want to hear about the Green Bay game in 4 drives. I want to know what you've seen with him that makes you say, I like him better than Carson Wentz.
Because he's
if you like the idea
they're gonna say he's not Carson.
Like if you like the idea of having something different, not saying I like Hertz better than Wentz, but I like the idea of we're going to see something different and a change from what's been really terrible to watch. I can buy that, but there's a lot of people over the last 2 or 3 weeks that suddenly say, I like Jalen Hurts better than Carson Wentz. Well, what about him? What have you seen? Right. Have you sat in practice? Because if so, there's a reason why he didn't get to play until really they were back doing the quarter. Let's not make a mistake here, guys. Then let's remind people, Jalen Hurts isn't playing for Carson Wentz because Jalen Hurts proved in practice and everything else. He didn't necessarily earn that. Carson lost the starting job for this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I want to know what people like about him. What people like better than Carson about him.
It's
than he's not Carson Wentz.
It's maddening because though they see Hertz running outside the pocket and avoiding the pass rush because he's athletic, and then they see the deep pass to Rager, which was a nice pass, and then they see the touchdown pass and oh, that's great, but they don't see the fact that a lot of his throws were also inaccurate. They don't see the fact, or they don't want to admit the fact that he missed a lot of wide open wide receivers too. There were a lot of receivers that were open. He didn't throw the ball to them because he didn't see them because he was busy running from the pocket. And he's not reading defenses. He doesn't know how to do that yet. He's one read and gone. And even that touchdown to Ward, he escaped the pocket, scrambled to his right. He had a pocket. He didn't need to scramble. He did, and the result was great. But I could show you that he left the pocket way too early. So there are so many things that Hertz did that still should be cause for concern. And I like Hertz, and I want to root for him, and I hope that he does well because he's an Eagle, and I want to see the Eagles do well. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I have doubts. I still have doubts. I don't. how I felt about him before the draft, that at best he'd be like a gadget guy, or like, you have to build a read option type of offense, a zone read type of offense around him in order for him to have some type of success. That's how I feel now. He doesn't show the ability as a pocket passer, and his arm isn't that great. Like, watch his passes. How many of those look like they had a lot of zing on them? Not a lot.
I was just gonna,
floating. So his accuracy is spotty. His arm talent is okay. It's decent, and he's not a quarterback that can beat you from the pocket. And running around will get you only so far. Because what happened when the Eagles were down by 1 score and the Packers really decided to play defense? They put the clamps down, and Hertz struggled. Right. He struggled, and when the Packers decided to turn it on and say, "Hey, we're not going to play off anymore," he struggled.
And that's and to that point too, because people were saying here, well, how can you say don't include the Packers game? Because A, a lot of that was garbage time, and B, you're not going to tell. I'm not going to accept, and nobody would accept 4 drives as an explanation why you like a guy better than a guy for 4 years, and particularly in your Super Bowl year before he got hurt, had basically clinched you home field advantage in the playoffs and played almost the entire year, and has played two successful seasons, 16-game seasons with the injury issues. So no, you're not going to tell me with a guy with a 4-year body of work that we're going to go by four drives, and that's what we're going to like. So I've seen some people comment about his college career. I'll take that. Tell me what you saw in college that makes you think I like this kid better than him. I don't hear he's a winner, because he's not a winner. He got replaced in the national championship game. Where's he at here?
And then he got smoked. Then he got smoked by LSU.
Matt Spillane says they'll say he's a winner. They neglect the fact that in his 4-year college career, every season finale game he completed less than 50% of his passes in each game when he had to play against the best talent around.
Right. Well, Chrome, what I was going to say, and what Chuck's alluded to, Chuck's, like you mentioned, he was a one read and go guy. That's all he was asked to do at Oklahoma. He was only asked to read half the field, or only asked to read one read, or like I said, half the field, and that was it. And and Oklahoma was obviously, is obviously the best team in the Big 12 and is a legitimate program. But he wasn't asked to scan the defense. He wasn't asked to audible at the line. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and like you said, Chrome. I mean, 4 drives is just not enough to indicate that you like this guy better than Carson. The Saints are going to have a game plan for him, and like I said, I mean, we're going to find out exactly how much he's progressed or hasn't progressed, or if he's ready, or if he is, potentially a franchise quarterback. But there's a reason why guys, who are drafted in the 2nd round or the 3rd round, there's a reason why that miss rate or that or that hit rate is very low. So if you look at a guy like Justin Herbert, who came off the bench in week 2, I mean, now you saw something special. You saw a guy who was ready, and you saw the reason why he was drafted where he was. I'm not saying Hertz won't be special, but there's potential that he's not going to be the guy, or that he's not going to be special. So it's something to think about.
Yeah, and listen, I want to see Jalen Hurts play well. I'd love it if both of them were spot on, really good. That's the best possible situation, honestly, for all of us. But I'm not going to do what we do in this city, like when Josh Adams was the next number 1 running back on this football team. When we thought Corey Clement was going to be the next Brian Westbrook of this football team.
Yeah,
I'm not going to crown guys. I think Travis Fulgham is going to be a good player. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver, but I think he could be a good one.
He'll be a solid number 2,
number 2 or 3. Right. And I think that he has that potential. He has that physical makeup and that skill set seems to translate well to the NFL from what we've seen. But I'm not going to crown a guy on four drives. I'm just not going to do it. Right. And the bottom line is I'm not being at all, because you guys know that, Chucks. Before most people at this station, I was calling for Carson to sit on the bench. I've been doing it for a while now. But I'm not going to crown anybody and put my organization and set my organization back. I'm not going to cheer for that. The best case scenario is Carson Wentz being the starting quarterback of this football team. And I'm going to cheer for that and fight for that all day. Because financially and for the on-field personnel-wise, that's the best thing for us. And otherwise, we're looking at really bad football for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
don't have a lot more to add. I knew we were going to get into conversations like this. It's typical. Like I agree with what you guys said, and I'll say it again. I want Hertz to do well. It's not like I'll be rooting against him either. You know what I mean? Like, I want him to do well. I want Carson to do well. But objectively speaking, Hertz isn't the talent that Carson is. And anyone who right now wants to say, "Oh, Hertz is so much better," you're just not talking straight. Like, you're not talking straight at all.
All right.
Yeah.
We went almost a whole 2 hours on just the first topic. Chucks, I know we ain't got too much longer, but what else you got for us, Chucks? We'll try to see if we can jump on something.
You want to give quick predictions, like if you want to do score predictions or just like players that you're watching out for this Sunday. Just thoughts on the game against the Saints.
I'll go first. I think Hertz will play decently. I think it's going to, I think they're going to do a better job of game planning around. They're not going to run him out there with the same game plan that Carson Wentz has had. And the thing too, and I've seen it mentioned in the chat as well. Remember them first 3 years with Carson, right? He was running. I know Anthony Adis, I think, talked about this in there. Carson was running, using his legs a lot more, playing a little more carefree. He's been in the league a lot more now, and he does take a little bit more caution, which sometimes I wish he wouldn't. I think Jalen's going to kind of have that throw caution to the wind, get out there and do what you got to do to get the W mentality, and I think that's going to bode well for him. I have the Eagles losing this game. I think the defense is going to struggle more this week. I have them losing probably somewhere in the range of like 31 or 32 to 17.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Eagles – I could see Hertz running for a touchdown and passing for a touchdown and having a decent game. But, I said it before and I'll say it again. I think your players of the game here are going to be – now, Drew Brees is still out, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I read that he might be coming back soon. So
how funny is it that the guy that the Eagles
that they want him to be is the guy
they're playing against them?
Right.
Exactly.
You can't make this stuff up, man.
Yeah, if you enjoy passing QBs, then this isn't the game for you to watch.
This is going to be more like a college game.
Yeah. It's going to be BYU versus Oklahoma.
I think Taysom Hill has a ball game this week. And I just because it's so poetic of 2020 and so poetic of this organization, I could see Malcolm Jenkins having his best game of the year this week.
Oh, yeah.
Just seems like the writing is on the wall. But just for the Eagles, what I'm looking to see, I want to see a difference in game plan. So it's not even necessarily with the players on the field. Obviously, I want to see what Jalen does, but I want to see how the coaching staff reacts to this change. That, to me, is going to be the most key. And I think depending on how those adjustments are put into place, I think it's going to be predicated a lot on if we see Doug come back by the end of the year. So I'm going to be more so looking to see a difference in scheme from the coaching staff.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, Chrome, I agree with you in terms of the score. I thought of like a 31-14 game, something like that. I do think Hertz is going to play well. I think we're going to see, make some plays for sure. But I just don't think it's going to be enough. The Saints defense, I believe, is the number one defense in the NFL right now. I mean, they got studs everywhere. So it's going to be a tough game, but I think who I'm excited to see, I'm actually excited to see the receivers and how they respond. Do we see some explosiveness out of Jalen Reagor? Do we see Fulgham, get back on track and come alive. So
J-Jaw?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't forget him. Yeah.
I honestly forget half the time that he's even on the team.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
I know. I'm surprised. Does he still dress for game day? I guess so, right? I don't know. But I'll tell you,
he missed a couple, I think, because he was on the COVID list, correct?
Right.
Like 1 or 2 games.
But he'll probably dress for this game. So, and I think Miles Sanders, this is probably going to be his biggest game to date. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of Sanders in this game.
Finally.
It's about time. So I mean, why isn't you just think about like why is it not happening? Why is it not happening already? Because the guy can make he busted some runs. He's busted a lot of big runs. This season. I don't know why it just hasn't been there, but you're probably going to see that, and I'm going to be interested to see if the defensive line can get after it. How the defense steps up. Knowing that they got a rookie quarterback on the field. So, but if I were to say in terms of a fantasy perspective in this game, I mean, there's probably gonna be a lot of Michael Thomas. You got to roll Michael Thomas out this week. Alvin Kamara is probably is good for about 2 touchdowns this week, I would say. So, Taysom Hill is probably gonna give you something good too. So if you go that route as well, the Saints look like a nice play this week. Just wanted to throw that in there, but that's So go ahead, Chucks.
All good. I don't know what the score is. I'll just agree with you guys. Around 30 something to around 17-ish, something like that. I'll just say that. I think I don't know what to expect. I do think that Doug is going to change the plays and simplify things and run more, which is absurd that it didn't happen earlier. But I think he's going to do it. Against that defense, I don't know how well they're going to be able to run the ball, though. You have to, if you're the Saints, you have to think that, hey, they're going to try to run on us. We're going to clog everything. Let's force Hertz to pass the ball.
Right.
You gotta. Yeah. That's got to be their approach. I mean, it's not like they're going to let Hertz just run all over them. They're going to bog down on them. So I don't know how much success we're going to have on the ground against that defense. I think Sanders is going to play well. I don't know if the numbers will show that because obviously the O-line has to do their job, but I think from just him alone, I think he is going to play well. I don't know. I think Malcolm Jenkins has
– He has a big game.
He has a big game. And, it's sad. I miss him. But anyway.
I'm surprised this is actually still end up being a 425 start, guys. I thought this would be flexed out.
I don't know. But that's all I got from.
Breaking news, 2020 news, by the way, not football related. Zeus, aka Tiny Lister, aka Debo, was found dead at his home in Marina Del Rey.
Wait,
today.
Who?
Tiny Lister, Zeus from No Holds Barred, Debo from
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh my God.
2020, man. 2020.
This year.
Good Lord.
That's tough. Rest in peace, man.
Yeah. Is Dad still down there?
There he is.
Got back.
I can't hear him. There he is. I couldn't hear you for a second. Did you change your hat?
Nah. I was sitting right here, so I grabbed it. I had my other one off. I left it downstairs, so I wasn't going back down. We were committed.
So Dad, score position. Do you want to do a score? I mean, you're going to be on again, but do you want to do a score prediction and what you're looking out for this week?
Yeah, I'll do a quick one. Like I said, I feel like it's a game they're going to win for reasons that aren't necessarily because they're good. You know what I mean? Like they're not good. They stink. They have no right to win. NFL's weird. Teams feel like they can't lose. And when you talk about a guy who can run around and make some plays, and extend some drives and stuff like that, might keep you in the game for a week. And Taysom Hill hasn't really beaten anybody throwing the football per se. So,
I wonder why.
Until he does, I mean, you make him beat you. You try to make him beat you in the pocket, but they haven't played anybody. They played the Falcons twice and the Broncos. So, yeah, they've been lights out over these last 3-4 games, but they're good. They're a damn good football team. We know that. So, I mean, they should win this game, the Saints. I just think this is like a letdown. This could be a letdown for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you win like a 28-24. Right. And
Well,
that might have to be done by your defense because Taysom Hill known to turn the football over a little bit, fumble wise. So, maybe a little strip and good territory, stuff like that. I mean, that's, I don't know how, like I said, they're not good enough to win this football game, but that's the NFL.
You make a good point, Tom, because next week they got the Chiefs at home in New Orleans. This absolutely could be a trap game.
Trap game. And then, like, I know our city too, and we'll overreact to us winning this game with the quarterback in. And then that controversy becomes even more heated just because this is the way the city's built. That's why we'll win this game, just because it's Philly. That's all. Just because it's Philly.
I don't see it. I see a loss, and I'm hoping for a loss. I need a higher draft pick. So
yeah.
No, I'm saying more of a reason, Chuck. This is more of a reason why we won't.
Listen, if we get a top 5 draft pick, Howie's going to draft like a 14th overall grade.
Yeah, I'd say Howie's going to draft. He's going to draft Micah Parsons at 3.
We're gonna hope. I still hope and pray. Chase Young, baby. Chase Young.
Anything to note real quick around the league this week? Anybody have a bold prediction for this week?
No, I didn't even get to think of it. I mean, right now, by the way, the Rams are killing the Patriots in the second quarter, 17-0. I think Cam threw a pick 6.
I might regret this, but I'm going to do it. I'm picking the Dolphins to upset the Chiefs this week.
That's Chrome. I was just going to say, if you want a bold prediction, I said, I think that was my bold prediction. My bold prediction is going to be the Dolphins beat the Chiefs.
Well, good. So it's not just me then. We can ride that train together.
I was going to look at something else because I thought somebody would say that, but I'll ride with it. Yeah.
I think the Dolphins beat the Chiefs this week. It just seems like a trap. It's tough to say a trap game against a team that's 8-4, but it just seems like one of those games that the Chiefs could lose. And I think Miami ends up being tied for the division lead after this week when the Steelers beat the Bills.
Yeah.
So,
can I throw another one out there? This isn't.
Yeah.
It's not like a crazy upset, but I think Washington's coming off a high, beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. They got to go. They got to go to Arizona to play the Niners. I could see that being a rout for the Niners. So if you guys are betting men, if you're a betting man, I'm not one to say I'm a betting man, but I could see that being. I wonder what that line's San Francisco -3.
So ironically enough, I hope that Washington wins that game because I really. Listen, we ain't winning the division. I want Washington to win this division. I want Alex Smith to take this team back to the playoffs. I'm really hoping you're wrong, but it wouldn't shock me. And San Francisco's been playing a little bit better as well as of late.
Yeah.
I can see the Giants winning again.
What's that?
I can see the Giants winning again against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Arizona, man, they came out like on fire this season, but boy, have they had a drop off.
Yeah.
Oof, rough stretch for them, and I agree with you, Tom. I think that this is going to be another tough go for Kyler and Arizona. So we'll see. But
unless they have a big letdown, the Giants, which they could too.
I hope.
Yeah.
You don't talk about letdowns.
After they beat, I would still go with Arizona, but we'll see. That Giants defense is something else.
Yeah.
Anything else for the cause, gentlemen, before we sign off for the evening?
No, I'm good.
No, that's all I got. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
Yeah, brother.
Nick, loved having you on, brother, as usual. Awesome having Geoff Mosher from Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Does a great job with Adam Kaplan and everything he does. Longtime Eagles reporter. Joined us, and if you missed it, go check it out the first 20 minutes of the show. He gave us a lot of really great information and insight. So definitely check that out. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Make sure you're following us on all of our other social media platforms. Thanks, JP, brother. All our other social media platforms. Follow us on Instagram, like, subscribe, set your alerts so you know that when all A2D shows are coming up, as well as follow us on all major podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, and iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever you call it. We've been adding a lot of really great shows here, and tomorrow night, just another big unveiling here, guys. We have it's Rachel Blaze, Spit and Fire with Rachel Blaze, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, guys, this show is going to be something else. It's Rachel. She's a Spitfire, man. She's going to be coming tomorrow. She's got a couple guests that's going to be joining her. Rachel's going to be talking. She's going to be listen for her show. It's going to be open ended. There's going to be sports. There's going to be I think all kinds of social topics and everything else. Rachel, she's going to be debuting tomorrow night here on A2D Radio at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you guys are tuning in. Check out Rachel's show tomorrow, as well as this is your chance to come on and join the fam here. Fan Friday, following Spit and Fire with Rachel Blaze. Fan Fridays tomorrow night, I think around 9:30ish. Make sure you guys tune in. Tom, some of the boys will be on here. It's your opportunity to come on, just as Nick is with us. And you're going to be able to come on and talk whatever you want. Sixers, Eagles, quarterback situation, Phillies, anything under the sun sports related. You come in, you get a chance to talk to some of us here. Sometimes we get a couple of you on at the same time and let you guys go at it while we get to sit back and relax for a little bit. So make sure you guys check it out. It's been phenomenal the first 2 weeks, and we're looking forward to week 3 of that.
Yeah, I'm
And
hoping
obviously
for tomorrow. That's why I'm taking these tonight.
That's okay.
All for tomorrow.
That's right. Dad's got a long day tomorrow. Obviously, Saturday, it's our marathon day, guys. We have Kicking It Stateside, weekly roundup, Kep's Corner in this very ring. Sunday, Agree to Disagree, following the Eagles game, I believe, right?
Yep.
Following the Eagles game, they should be your official Eagles post-game show, so make sure you guys are over here checking it out. Monday, the Sports Hounds. And then Monday morning quarterback with Ryan and Big Dad. Make sure you check that out. Tuesday, lazy booking next week, as well as After Dark. That show's freaking crazy, by the way. Make sure you come on and check those shows out. And obviously Wednesday, we have The Fix and AM and the PM. Fuse The Fix and the PM. Make sure you guys come back and check them out. And we'll be back next week. Hockey Happy Hour, by the way, coming at you guys, 10 p.m. here on A2D Radio. So make sure you come back. Check out Maddie, Pove, Brian Daly, all the boys getting you ready for hockey season for all you puckheads out there. So thank you to our sponsors, Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy in Burlington and Cherry Hill, right?
Yes, sir.
I had to make sure I didn't throw the one that wasn't existing anymore out there. You can check them out. No appointment necessary for the best doc in the business at specializedphysicaltherapy.com, as well as Ambuck Services, AMBUCK services.com, gutter guards, gutter cleaning, deck installation, restoration, outside work done. Let Michael Ambrose know that your fan here at A2D sent you, and you're going to get 20% off of your services. So check them out, ambuckservices.com, and obviously get your A2D merch. You see me and Big Dad have some of it on here. A lot of cool stuff on there. Like 53, 54, 55 items, something like that. You go check it out. It's phillydrinkers.com. You can get it specifically to the A2D section, phillydrinkers.com/A2D radio. Get on there, get your merch, get your quarterback factory shirt. It's real relevant right now. That's a real t-shirt. We're not, that's not irrelevant t-shirts like we've seen put out by others. That's a real t-shirt that obviously fits. But for myself, for Chuck's Moranin, for Big Dad Tom, there it is, right there. For Big Dad Tom Arnone down here, for Nick joining us, for Geoff Mosher, and for everybody else, we thank you guys for all your comments. A lot of fire into there, and you guys drive it. We love you. Take care. Be safe. Put your masks on. It's getting real bad out there, and take care.